I feel like perception is so important with every and anything that we do in this life that we lose track of our own perception of life and everything that we want out of this life at any given moment. I know for me, it was a long time coming to try to get to where I wanted to be in so many different ways, a lot of different ways to rise to the occasion. A lot of our problem is that we think we're in more control of everything in life than what we actually are. My lack of understanding is what got me in trouble with a lot of different things in life. I never realized that I could be in so much control, but so little at the same time. I wanted everything to go my way. I wanted everything to go exactly as I had imagined it. And that's the unrealistic reality of life. Nothing always goes as you want it to. I think as I've grown and I've started to accept more in life, I've also started to trust the process of perception. I've started to trust in the fact that I have the power, even though it can be difficult and extremely rough, but I have the power within to control how I perceive every situation. A testament of that for me was when my aunt had passed away last year. And death is always a huge knockdown for me. It's ultimately always been one of my biggest triggers for my depression, for a downfall for me, for a slippery slope into, isolation, because I shut everything out in the world. What amazed me last year was my aunt's death was the first death where I actually felt that I had a complete understanding of my control over the situation. And when I say my control over the situation, I mean my control over everything involving myself in the situation. My misconception with everything in life before was that I could control everything that included me and outside of me in the world. And that's just never going to be true. A huge key in helping me become less stubborn and become more vulnerable with myself and understanding is a tool called journaling. And I write down so many different things every day, especially with how hectic things get in life. And I want to emphasize my point here I want to clarify that I don't mean, perceiving things a different way is going to make a life perfect. I don't mean that. What I mean more so is when rough situations happen, whether it be a death of a loved one, argument with somebody you care about, and you're just all stressed out, you're depressed, anything toxic in the world. We have a gift as individuals that we actually can tap into. A lot of the time, it is hard to do that in the moment because we let anger take over, we let sadness take over, we let every other emotion take over before we use this right here. And I'm guilty of that a million times over. We have that moment in life where when something happens and we can just stop. And it's a small window of time before our reactions kick in, but it is there. And it's a small window of time where we can see what our actions will lead to and how we can handle this from what we can control that will better the outcome in the future. And amazingly, instead of reacting like I usually do in any situation, I've used that exact tool countless times now. And it has changed what could have been and would have been very different outcomes of things like I just said, arguments, deepening depression, all types of stuff. When bad things happen, I get very sad still. But I try to show myself what good I can find in it. Because ultimately, if I'm going to look for more bad in every situation that I come across. And I just wallow in it, which I've done so much before in the most toxic moments of my life. All I am saying to my brain is I am telling my brain it is okay to be depressed like you always were. You take control. I don't want to find a way out of this. And that is the sad reality that a lot of us have to go through, because depression really is that tricky. It really is that forceful on us. We do feel like we have no way out. And that's where you get that moment, even in your most sad times, your most depressed times, because we all know depression is not just sadness. It's much deeper than that. It's much more layered. And that is where we get that moment to break everything down. That's why I encourage anybody to use journaling. Write down exactly, detail by detail, what you're feeling, and look back on it. Read it, break it down. And you get to just, okay, I can control this, this, and this, but I can't control A, B, C, D, whatever. But look at what you can control and realize that there is a glory within that alone. There is a blessing within that, even though the situation you're in freaking sucks. And I promise, if you start to use that, you will find that things will become a little bit easier in the rough times. And it's not going to be perfect, because that's life. I mean, and I don't go around saying that to people, because that's not anything anybody wants to hear, when they are depressed or sad or anything. That's life. We all know that. But I found that for me, what helps is trying to find little tiny tweaks that I can do with myself, with the power that I have as one individual, to change what I can change within me so that I feel comfortable, even if it's just a little bit more comfortable in said moment. There's a lot of different ways that you can, just as long as you're not keeping it up here, and because that's when things get real dark and hectic. And I think a lot of us miss our opportunity and our chance to even stop and have that moment of, how can I, because a lot of us are just moving day to day with so much rage and so much anxiety, with so much confusion, and we just like to lash out. Or others, we handle it in different ways. Like me, I isolate, and then when somebody does bother me, that's when it all comes out at once. We need a way to be vulnerable, even if not with others, with ourselves. And that's how, write stuff down, be patient, and just know bad things will continue to happen, because it's inevitable. It's a given. But giving yourself a chance to control what you can control for yourself will take you far. It'll do wonders for you. And I think that's just really what I'm growing on right now in my journey, is that simple principle of grounding myself in what I can control, because that's all I can control. I hope your day is going great, and I hope that if anything is upsetting you in this moment, you will give yourself that moment of clarity to try to figure out how to maneuver through what you can control, because that's all we can. Trust in God and continue to move on your path the best way you know, and the best way you see fit for yourself. If no one's told you today, I love you. Just keep moving, because you can't predict where the journey of life is taking you. You just experience it as it comes. That's it.